Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. Hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving holiday. Thanks for coming on in. Joining me in Studio B, of course, is always the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. If not a subscriber already, please subscribe to the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Subscribe to Bigfoot, Michigan Rob on YouTube. Texas Front Porch on YouTube, Paranormal Paul, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, Donnie Cho says stuff. We don't turn on we don't schedule. I don't put out the times for the shows. Make sure your alert bell is turned on, everybody. Please make sure the alert bell is, of course, turned on. We have a fantastic show. Harley Owens from Tennessee. We're going to be getting into some of his Bigfoot encounters, Dogman, a soiree with Dogman, and his research from Tennessee. One of the younger guys out there doing his thing, and we need more young people infused into the community searching for these cryptids. Thank you ever so much for coming on in. And, I always got to thank everybody, as, for those who follow the show. You know that I have 2 books out. That's right. Just in time for Christmas, y'all. Bigfoot Mystery Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. It's been out a year and 3 months. Book 2 dropped end of August. Type Bigfoot Mystery Rob in your Amazon browser. Please leave a review. If you have bought the book, it does promote sales. It's all analytics these days. It's all analytics. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts. Again, whatever platform you can find those. So thanks so much for that. And with that being said, the Super Chat's open. It's a great way to help support what we do around here. So thank you. And also, you become a BMR pirate. Everybody, join today. Join the many. Join the few. You get a picture of me next to your name in the chat room sporting a bandana. Yeah, that's what you get. However, though, the first of the year, I'll be doing members-only shows. I'll be dropping those for all of my lovely pirates. Arr. And we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of cool things going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the lovely Krista. Hi, hey. Krista. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm really good.
I'm pretty good. I think I'm getting sick. Yeah, I can tell. I got the scratchy, my throat is all scratchy. Now, my ma, she's been sick for 3 days, So I've been kind of taking care of her a little bit. And, I think I might have caught whatever the hell she's got.
Probably so.
So I just hope it's not like you were saying backstage, that 3-week, whatever that is.
Yeah, when I had pneumonia, the doctor was telling me that there's a 3-week viral that's been going around that lasts for 3 weeks. So, yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, I hope I'm not. Yeah, I hope that's not the case with me.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Me too. Paranormal Paul says, don't breathe on any of us, BMR. Thank you, DJ.
Well, probably another decade, you'll probably be able to put it over the intranet.
Right. You're not kidding.
We'll do a show in a decade, if we're still doing this in a decade.
Right.
You'll catch my thank you, DJ. You're awesome, brother.
Right.
We're going to start the show in a minute. Of course, the show has started. It's always start. When I hit that live button, we start. However, I'm very excited because, our whole group is putting on a fantastic conference coming up. And I'm going to put it up really quick. The Crossing Realms Conference, UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptids, September 19th and 20th in Richmond, Missouri. That's our initial flyer. You see a cool Bigfoot, a cool alien, and we'll be talking about everything. And as you know, Krista, and we do have the link for Eventbrite posted, and I'll drop it every now and again.
Yep.
And with that being said, Krista, I'll let you handle what's going on with that outstanding event. And we've already gotten off to a great start, Krista, with sales.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in, especially the ghost hunt portion, we're about to sell out of that already, and it's only went on sale on Sunday. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's and we're not adding any more tickets either. I mean, when they're out, they're out. So, but our guests include. Let me bring up my spreadsheet. We have Greg Ogles, Haunted Souls, who they're going to bring the haunted car.
Okay.
Ron Murphy and Celine, they're going to come and they are talking about the Fae. So that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. Yep.
Dr. Dean Bertram, he's going to, I think, talk on like the UFO side of things.
Yep.
William Lunsford, we all know he's big on the Fouke monsters. So I'm sure that's what he's going to choose to talk about. Heather Mosier, Small Town Monsters. I'm excited to have her again. To hang out with us, and Josh Hurd, he's one of our good friends, and he's awesome. Owner of Malvern Manor, and then our tech guy is Christopher Jordan, so that'll be good. He's also our featured podcaster that's going to be there. Tex is master of ceremonies, so Tex is going to MC it. Special guests that are not speaking, but they're going to be there. They have a booth, so and get into the vendor portion is free. So you can come and say hi to Ken Gerhardt, Dana Stricker. She's been on Blondes and Booze several times, and I think she's been on Paranormal Paul's show too. She's going to be doing readings. Brent Thomas, so he's going to be there, and then also Mary Lynn. She is going to be there and doing a gallery reading at the end. So there's a lot going on, like a whole lot.
There is a whole lot, and not to mention, I'll be there. Krista will be there. Brandy will be there. Jason McLean, Donnie Cho, Paranormal Paul, Daniel Diva, Monica Rollins. So all of us, all of your friend, all of us YouTubers we all watch, we'll all be there.
Every one of us.
And if you bought my book, by the way, bring the book with you. I'll sign it for you. I'll be also selling my books there as well. And with the ghost hunt, man, this is great because I don't think any conference and the ticket pricing, Krista, is very affordable, very affordable.
And honestly, Monica Rollins, she's put on a lot of conferences, and what did she say? We're cheap.
She said we're cheap. And in fact, we're also, did you say Doug Hijack is a sponsor for us from Monster Quest?
Yep.
So we got a lot of heavy hitters.
Yeah. And Mary Lynn Bass, they're sponsoring also. So
yeah,
we do.
We've been working on this, everybody, for a while, and we finally introduced it December 1st, as Krista said. Sales they're blowing up. And I'm not this guy to oversell this event. I'm not, because the amount of outpouring we've gotten so far, Krista, has been kind of overwhelming already.
Yeah.
With purchases here during Christmas season, it's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
Right. I think we're very blessed that we have friends out there that are going to come and help support. It is a benefit. Portion of the proceeds go to the Ray County Museum. So that come and help support. It's a good cause. What we're doing it for.
Yeah, we're giving back to the community. It's a smaller community. Proceeds, we're donating a lot of the proceeds to the town, to the museum. So I think we're doing a stand-up job with everything that we're doing. And the thing that I love the most about these conferences is get to shake hands with a lot of our fellow followers on YouTube. Every time I go to a conference and people from the chat room show up or that watch the shows, you get to meet them in person, and I love that.
Me too. That's the best part about it, because they're not just people in chat. They're truly our friends.
Yes, they are, and also just because you're not in the chat room, our shows are driven by the people that are watching now or watch the replay. A lot of people don't come and chat, but they're also our friends, and we appreciate their support because, frankly, without the audience, we wouldn't do this. We would not do this.
No, not at all.
Although we love doing this, but we have an audience that we can talk to about what we've experienced and have these fabulous guests. And I
Yeah.
got to tell you, Chris, the guests we have tonight, young guys starting out research,
Hmm.
Harley Owens, Tennessee. He's boots on the ground. He does his thing. He's got a lot of experiences, and I'm
Yep.
very excited. He was on 6 months ago. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna, without further ado, Harley, if you're ready, I'm gonna bring you up. He gave me the thumbs up, everybody.
Hey everyone,
Hello.
Hi,
Thank you
Harley. How you
for
doing,
joining
man?
us.
I'm doing great. I woke up on the right side of the dirt this morning, so that's all I can be thankful for.
As long as you're on top of the dirt, that's all that matters.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Backstage, you had said that you were speaking at a conference
Yeah.
and going to be a vendor at one. What conference are you speaking at?
The Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. That's
Hey,
gonna
we'll be there too.
Yep.
really,
Mhm.
really the one
Not
in
Yeah.
Townsend.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to Greg Ogles, he is yeah, we're going hanging out. Greg invited.
We'll get to shake your hand, Harley.
Exactly. Hey, there we go. You may have to look up at me, but that'll be all right.
Oh yeah. What are you? You're a 7 footer. You're
6'6".
you're as tall as a baby Bigfoot, then, man.
Exactly, yeah. And then Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con, I'll have a booth there set up, have a bunch of my pictures,
Fantastic.
copies of my footprints that I've casted, and just looking forward to meeting everybody. So, funny story, I went to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg.
Hmm.
And that was the first conference I had ever been to. I went
You go
there
to last year or the year before? I went
this
the year
year.
before.
I went
Okay.
this year.
We Brandy and I went the year before.
Yeah, I went this year, and the amount of people that came up to me and knew me, it was
Mhm.
unbelievable. Like, I'm just a small town East Tennessee boy, and I'm like, I didn't even know half of these people, but they knew me, and that was just an honor and a pleasure, and they kept coming back to find me and talk to me, and I'm a people person, and it was so wholesome, and just to be there and talk with everybody.
Hmm. I understand for sure.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm truly blessed. December 7th, just 4 days from now, marks my 1 year anniversary of being boots on the ground. Spending 5, 6, 7 days a week out in the woods. Putting in the miles, and it's been an experience in its own self. Being going from 2020 to now. Having my first experience in 2020. Stopped hunting last Thanksgiving. I went back deer hunting for the first time
Yes.
since 2019,
Hmm.
and
Right.
I overcome what I thought was a fear of these creatures.
Sure.
And I started researching December 7th of last year, and I have made a community itself on Facebook. I've got over 5,000 members in that, and I've
That's
created a
awesome.
YouTube channel, and I've kind of picked up where Scott Carpenter had left off, because I didn't know what I was doing. I looked up Bigfoot research in East Tennessee, and Scott Carpenter's name had pulled up, and unfortunately, he had done passed away. And I have since then become very good friends with his son, and it's just so real, to be hiking those same trails that he has, and
Hmm.
come across the things that he's experienced and encountered as well.
You know, last time around, you're right because I remember that your first really encounter was right around the Thanksgiving time in 2023. Around that, I mean, I'm
September,
off a little,
yeah.
and I remember it was just something that you were like, "Wow." But you know what I find very odd or familiar? A lot of these researchers or experiencers or that have come across Bigfoot, a lot of it happens like Carrie Arnold is just one off the top of my head, who's now passed away as well, unfortunately, in an automobile wreck. Prayers out to his family. Thanksgiving time, Christmas time seems to be a time when people come across Bigfoot, Dogman, or whatever. I mean, have you come across that when talking to people?
Yeah, it tends to be that way, and I think that there's something, you know, it's something weird. I don't know why it is that they show up around that time, but it's definitely no coincidence. That you could talk about a transition or whatever you want to call it, but the veil, whatever. I tend to lean more towards maybe a veil, but I don't know. I used to think these things were natural, but leading on to more of my experiences and
Yeah,
encounters, there is more to these things than just being flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Chris and I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, I was a flesh and blood guy. I totally disregard the aper theory. I'm not an aper guy today. I
Nope.
was, I mean, I still appreciate it and respect it. And I think maybe there is just a Bigfoot creature that's all flesh and blood. But even
Yeah.
so, I have my doubts, especially speaking with a lot of the great researchers I've spoken with the last 4 or 5 years. So, yeah, so what got you into this then? I mean, did you wake up? I mean, you weren't, when you're 18 years old, you didn't want to be a researcher. You probably didn't give two shits about Bigfoot.
No, I was 20 years old. I could care less. It was the last thing on my mind. I was working and making money. I could care less about Bigfoot. I didn't believe in it. And growing up, we had something happen. I can't remember how old I was, but my dad brought it up. We had 15 or 16 hogs that were about 250, 300 pounds. And he told me that the dogs went crazy that night, and the next morning he went down there and all the hogs were dead, all killed, ripped in half, and they weren't eaten. And he jokingly said it was Bigfoot, and I looked it up right after that, because around that time was when the hoax happened in Georgia, where they found it in the ice cooler or whatever. They apparently had shot it. um, I remember that from when I was younger. And, I just growing up, I believed in Black Panthers more than Bigfoot, because I heard one. And if you have not heard a Black Panther scream, that is straight up chilling. And, growing just after that first experience, when I seen it, I knew what I was looking at. I was like, this is a Bigfoot. These things are real. People aren't crazy. I stopped hunting for 3 years. It literally terrified me. And just after all the nightmares and everything that I was having, I had to overcome that. So last Thanksgiving, I went back out deer hunting, killed an 8 point, and I was like, I'm gonna go looking for these things. What's the worst that could happen? And I went down a rabbit hole, because for those 3 years, I thought, that they're some kind of ape, Gigantopithecus. But when I started looking into everything more and more, and I was like, there's more going on. Could there be more than one explanation? Could there be very well multiple different types of these creatures? Absolutely. Could some of them have more capabilities than others? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good point. I think that some of them do have more capabilities than others. For whatever the reason, none of us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, again, not to be redundant, this is like my fourth. Well, I think this is my fourth year now doing this. 2018, I had my encounter and I've been talking with people ever since. And all encounters are different yet the same. Some are supernatural, some you can't explain, and
Yep.
some are as simple as Bigfoot crossing the road. I
Yeah,
saw this humongous beast cross the road, which is
exactly.
probably still today the number one most reported encounter.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And me, what am I doing? I ain't driving down the road looking for these things. I'm going out there with them. I'm hiking miles and miles and miles in the national park in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I'm slipping and falling. I'm thankful that the leaves and stuff have died off because there ain't no snakes out anymore. But I'm still in the elements. Crossing creeks, slipping and getting soaking wet. Bundling up in the cold. And whenever it was hot, I would walk around without a t-shirt on. Whenever I'd get out of the woods, I'd be picking ticks off of me. I was out there, and I love what I do. I love generally getting out there, being in God's country, and just trying to find the answers from the questions that I'm really looking for. Which I really probably won't ever get in this lifetime, maybe. But if for the good Lord willing, maybe I will. But I got to put myself in a position to have an experience or an encounter. And that's what a lot of people don't really understand. You can't just sit there on a couch, and, say, oh, they're this or that. You got to go out there and actually experience it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to experience it or talk with people on a constant basis, right?
Yes, exactly.
I've had one encounter 2018, haven't seen one since. But during this show, I've learned so much from other people like yourself and seasoned people. I want to get into some of your Bigfoot and Dogman experiences, but first, I got to say this because I love fishing. And I was perusing your Facebook. I was looking for like a picture to do my
Oh,
thumbnail, right? I gotta tell you, man, you've caught some lunker bass.
oh man, I'm a
You got
pro
so
at
many
it,
great pictures, dude,
dude.
of
I'm a
the
pro.
fish,
My biggest
man.
largemouth was 1062.
Yeah.
My biggest smallmouth was seven, a little over 7. So I know how to catch them.
Well, I don't got them. They're not that. I think Bigfoot, not Bigfoot, a big mouth bass, bucket mouths, large mouths. They're down south more predominantly than the north, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean the
Smallmouth
big ones.
country in Michigan. I would love to
Where's
fish Lake
smallmouth?
Erie. Yeah, I would love to fish Lake Erie.
Well, we could talk some other time because I'm right in the middle of everything. You can get any fish you want here. But the lunker bass, unless you go to a pond that's stocked,
Yeah,
and that's not fair. The
no,
man-made one's
that's
not
that's
is not
cheating.
fair.
That's cheating.
Yeah, but you like some good muskie, man. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I
Well,
don't
boy,
know about that. That's too many teeth.
that's well. Plus, it'll take you 2 hours to bring it in. But anyway, I
Oh,
got sidetracked because I saw your fishing pictures and I was like, they're totally awesome.
oh Lord. Well, I get we'll take a little flashback here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So September 23rd, that was the day that I actually seen my first Bigfoot. I worked at an auction company at this time. I'm gonna try and just summarize this up, for a little summary,
Take it. Yeah,
because
take your time. Yeah.
I'm sure some people have heard it, but we'll just do this. So I
Really
was,
quickly, I'm gonna stop you right there. Take your time, give every detail, because you know what? I used to say that my Bigfoot encounter. I got to the point where I said it 1,000 times, and I said I'm gonna start not saying it or editing it. And
Mhm.
people are like, Rob, do never do that again. I've had people tell me that they could hear my story, and I'm not bragging. I'm not. They could hear my story 100 times and still get something out of it. So just let you know for the future,
yeah,
just tell your story as it is and just tell it, man, because you
yeah.
own it. You own it.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, what leading up to that week of me having my experience, we went up there and talked with the owner of this sawmill, and we had to catalog everything that was being sold, and he was telling us about this bear. Now, leading up to what I, I'm thinking now, I don't think that guy was actually seeing a bear. I think he was seeing a Bigfoot getting in the dumpster, because he said just keep an eye out on the bear, and I never seen the bear the whole time I was up there, but I seen the Bigfoot. Now, he was warning us about other things worse than that in the mountains, and I'm like, okay, I was 20 years old. I grew up hunting and fishing. There's venomous snakes, spiders, mountain lions, coyotes, and bears. That's the normal wildlife. They could attack you. And I was like, I jokingly told myself Black Panther. That's what I was telling myself, that those are what's worse than the bears in the mountains. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
he's talking about a Black Panthers and stuff like that. Now, Bigfoot was the last thing on my mind at that point in time. And, going on through that week, nothing happened. The auction was on a Saturday. My boss came up to me and he asked, do you want to stay up here another week and help people load their stuff that they bought? And I told him, yeah. And he said, okay, I'm going to send these other guys on somewhere else. I think he sent them to Georgia or somewhere down south. I can't remember where. So that Sunday came around. I wasn't going to sit in a hotel room all day. I was going to go out there and get work done. And it was raining. So I hopped on the skid steer and I was forking up pallets and throwing stuff on the pallets. And when I got done, I got out and I walked around the wood line. And I remember distinctly seeing some tracks that caught my attention. And I was looking and I was like, well, those are a big foot. And I had put my size 12 boot right next to him. And I was like, well, that's really a Bigfoot. I was like, either there's a big hobo out here walking around or this is Bigfoot. I jokingly told myself Bigfoot. And, Monday, nothing happened. Tuesday, nothing happened. Wednesday, September 23rd, that was the day that literally changed my life. You know, I got out there that morning. It was right at daylight, and there was already somebody at the gate waiting for me. So I hopped out, unlocked the gate, drove down into the holler where the sawmill is, and I opened the other gate, and we got in there, and I hopped on the skid steer, and I forked up his pallets and threw him on his trailer, and he went on about his day. I didn't have anybody in there for the rest of that day, so I just sat in the skid steer. I know I was playing a game on my phone for most of the day. I think I was playing Angry Birds, if I'm not mistaken. So about 1:30, 1:40 came around, and I got out of the skid steer to go to the service truck to get a Coca-Cola and a peanut butter sandwich out of my cooler. And I opened the lid and I pulled out my sandwich and my drink, and I heard this growlish grunt over to my left. And I looked in that direction because I thought it was the bear that he was talking about. And I looked, I didn't see anything. Now, this sawmill was in a big flat, and there was a big little ridge on both sides of this place. And as I'm sitting there looking, you know, because it sounds like it's right there beside of me, I'm still sitting there looking. I don't see anything. But I looked over and I go to open my Coke bottle, and I heard it again. And I looked and I seen something moving along this cliff face. And, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, this is that bear. You know, I couldn't really tell nothing because of the brush and the foliage, and it was moving along through there on that cliff face. And I looked down, I looked back up, and I looked down and I looked back up. It was still moving through the brush and the foliage. Well, when I looked up that third time, that was when I seen it. It was leaning out and looking at me. It was doing the peekaboo, and that's when I knew it wasn't a bear. You know, I had never seen a bear do that. You know, I go to Cates Cove I went to Cates Cove growing up all the time. You know, bears didn't do that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a Bigfoot. You know, these things are real. People aren't crazy. So the only logical thing I knew of to do was to pull my phone out and I snapped a picture. Well, as soon as I snapped that picture, my phone had like 70-something% battery at that time, and it shut off. And I remember just locking eyes with this thing, and it turned around and it walked up to the ridge. And I went to the truck, I jumped in the truck, shut the door, plugged my phone up, hoping and praying that it would come back on. And probably about 10, 15 minutes later, it came back on after the creature was gone. And sure enough, I had the picture of it. You know, it's up there on the cliff face, and it's leaning out from around the brush, looking at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, these things, they're real. And, you know, I didn't get out of the truck for the rest of that day. I was sitting there, and I had the windows down later on that evening. I was getting ready to leave, and that's when they started hollering. And there was, come to find out, I've had the audios analyzed since that point in time. I initially just thought it was the one. There is more than one individual creature communicating back and forth through this first set of audio. The next day rolls around, I get back out there, and I'm looking around, and I find a trackway from where this creature was at. It came down from that ridge and worked its way around and came into that sawmill area. And I found a trackway, and I'm 6'6", and I could not stride in between these tracks. And I have photo and video of those tracks as well. Not to mention, they started hollering again that night. I recorded 2 sets of audio from that night as well. They were about 15 minutes apart, and the vocalizations were further off because I don't know if they moved further off of what, but they sounded further away, and it was just unreal, the audio that I had captured, you know, and still have it to this day. And, you know, I had somebody telling me, you know, he was dead set that it was an elk. And then he sent it to his buddy that was an elk expert. He said, buddy, that's not an elk. He said, I don't know what the hell that is. And, you know, I remember distinctly, Friday came around, I got the hell out of that place. So I went to this local drive-in diner called Robo's. And I thought to myself, if anybody knows what I've seen, it's going to be these old timers, you know, because they've seen it all. So I got me about to eat, and I went over and sat down with them, and I just struck up conversation, just talking to them. And, you know, I dropped the bomb on them. I said, y'all ever seen or heard anything strange? And they all got quiet, and they all looked at each other, and one of them said, well, what did you see? I said this. And I pulled up the picture, and I showed them the video and the photos of the tracks, and I let them listen to the audio, and they all got quiet. And one of them looked at me, and he said this, word for word. And I remember it to this day from 4 years ago. He said, well, that's a devil monkey. And I was like, so that's a Bigfoot? He said, yeah, a devil monkey, wood boogers, mountain giants, it's all the same thing. And I was like, well, that's all the verification that I need. Later that day, I got home. I talked with my parents, and I dropped the bomb on them that I let them know that I'd seen something. Well, that was quite frankly almost the last time that I have talked to my parents since that experience or encounter. I still kind of talk to my sisters here and there, but my mom and dad and the rest of my family and friends are pretty much cut off now because apparently I'm the crazy person from seeing a Bigfoot and having a picture of it and oh, it's a shadow. Oh, that's coyotes and elk making those sounds. And, I've just come to learn to accept it. It is what it is, And
Mm-hmm.
I know what I seen. I know what I have a picture of. I know what I
Right.
experienced. And, I have told nothing but the truth and the wholehearted truth.
Right. Yep. Makes Rob, you're on mute.
Son of a gun. Harley, I was about to say we're all crazy, man. We're all crazy. We're all nuts. You know that. Come on.
Oh, yeah. So that was the
Thanks,
encounter
Chris.
that
I was talking. I'm like, why? Never
Well, I
mind.
wondered. I thought maybe you muted yourself to talk to
I
your
did
mom or
because
something, so I didn't
I
say
muted
nothing.
myself because I was coughing with this stupid
Ah, gotcha.
influenza I'm getting because I
Gotcha.
don't want to cough during the show. Harley, no, continue on. I was about to say when you said that about your friend's family, dude, we're all nuts. Okay,
Oh yeah.
we
So
are
I'm going.
we are outcasts. We're the black sheep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna attempt to show this on here, but that is the picture right there. You can see the Bigfoot leaning out from
Well,
around the
let me
tree.
see. Is that in the pictures you sent me, man? Because I know you sent me
It
some
was in the
photos.
old pictures I sent you. I don't know if you still have them or
Nah, I
not.
don't. I got so much file space.
Yeah, but so this was the crazy thing. So I had somebody enhance the image, and this totally blew my mind. For 4 years, I thought this creature had black hair. It actually has reddish brown hair. So they enhanced the image of it, and if you look around, you
Yeah.
can't really tell it on there, but it appears to be reddish brown hair.
Yeah, well, mine was reddish brown. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors.
Oh yeah,
I
they
do.
definitely do. And my second experience was definitely the eye opener for me to realize that there is something more to them than just a ape. So it was December 7th. That was the day that I started my research. December 14th was when this encounter had happened. I utilize a back trail camera technique, and what that does, I have a GoPro camera strapped to my shoulder, and I record behind me. That's a technique that Scott Carpenter had
Yeah,
done,
you
and
got that from Carpenter. Yep.
yes, and that is a technique that I use. Man, my first day out, uh, I had captured one right behind me, and that was definitely an eye opener to me. And it's just crazy to think that there could be one right there behind you, and you would never even know it. And it's crazy to think that they're that big and they can be that quiet and stealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let
So
me ask you this. Hey, Harley, really quick, let me ask you this.
yeah,
Some of these can get to 7, 8, 9 feet tall, some a girth of 4 foot,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
hmm
And I know for a fact, if you're not looking for it, you can write. If you don't, like my brother, now me and my brother, thanks, JoJo.
Jojo.
Thanks, JoJo. Um, Super Chat, a great way to help support what we do. You can also become a BMR player at R. Join today. Join the many, join the few. But anyways, my brother, now that I told my brother my encounter 2018, he watches the show. He's a believer. My brother's been hunting for 25 years, 20 years.
uh-huh.
Rob, I've never come across a Bigfoot. Now he starts looking for evidence. When he's out there hunting, he'll still look when he's on the trail. He'll look for prints, he'll look for tree
Yep.
breaks, structures. I'm not going to get into the deer that disappeared on him, which is very.
Oh,
I can tell you that a little later in the show. I want to have you continue on. But my point that I'm trying to get at is we can. Thanks, Gary Spike
Thanks,
Senior.
Gary.
Arr.
And thanks, Sinfully.
Thanks, Sinfully. Thanks to everybody. Love you guys. Gary, Sinfully, thank you ever so much. Um, we can walk past these things and not know they're there if we have no clue about Bigfoot. no matter how big they are. So my question to you really quickly is, I don't know. That's where the camouflage. What's the word I'm looking for, Krista?
Cloak.
Cloaking.
Yeah,
Yes. Do you
okay.
believe they cloak?
Yeah, I think they do. I think their hair, because I actually found hair, translucent hairs
Okay.
that are coarse, almost like a horse tail hair. And I know that there is no animal, to my knowledge, that has clear hair. Um, and not to mention that it's, pretty much what Scott Carpenter said. He said their hair is like horsetail hair. It's real coarse. And I was like, you know what, this has got to be it. And I'm awaiting the results from that. They are at NC State University being tested right now.
Very
Um,
Awesome.
so we'll see what happens if they don't get lost.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you. Get a hold of me too when you get that the data back. I'd love to hear that. It's all data these days.
Yes, absolutely. I will. Now, leading it to this second encounter, I started December 7th of last year, and I mean, I went every day. As soon as I started, literally, I have been almost every single day since I have started this. From December 7th to now, I've been almost every single day whenever I can go out. And, December 14th, I had my wife with me that day. We went out and we hit the trail. And we were on our way back out from the trail. And she stopped. She says, "Look at those sticks over." And I said, "Where?" She said, "Right over to the right." And I looked and I was like, "Yeah, what about them?" She says, "Those look like something out of a war movie." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "They're broken and jabbed up and they're sticking out of the ground." And I said, "All right, I'll go over and look." I said, "You stand right here on the trail." I said, "I'm going to walk over and look." It wasn't about 30 yards off the trail. So I walked over there and I looked. And the sticks were stuffed down into the ground. And there's two trees that were falling over a place there, and there was something that had been laying in between those two trees, and I stepped it off, and by my guess, it was around 8.5 feet, and I was like, well, there ain't no black bear that big, so it's got to be a Bigfoot. And by that time, I heard something walking in front of me, and I hollered at my wife. I said, "Stand right here." I said, "I'm gonna walk over here." I said, "I think it's a bear." She said, "Okay." So I eased on in back in there. And I come across this huge game trail. Like the limbs up high are broken, like 8, 9, 10 feet tall. Like the branches are broken, and it's just a huge game trail. I don't know if I didn't know if it was from elk or Bigfoot at that time, but now I believe it's from the Bigfoot. So I'm standing in the middle of this trail, and I just have this gut feeling that I need to look to my right. So I turned on a dime, and I locked eyes with this reddish brown Bigfoot. It walked right behind a tree. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot closer than my first one, because my first one was up on a cliff, probably about 50, 60 yards away. This one was within 25 to 30 yards away from me. It was much closer. So I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for this thing to come out from behind this tree. I'm standing there and I'm just waiting. It steps out from behind the tree and it's looking straight at me. We're making eye contact. And it crouches down in behind this laurel bush. Now, laurel bushes, they stay green year-round here in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Their leaves don't die off. They stay green. And they're big, big leafy leaves. And it was crouched down in behind this laurel bush, and it peeks its head out to look at me. And I could see him real good. He's got reddish-brown hair. He's got gray skin, black eyes, almost like what looks like a goatee, gray skin, and just so crazy that it was right there and looking at me. And it just... Mm-hmm. These eyes, there was a humanness to them. And we were looking back and forth at each other for about 30, 40 seconds. And then all of a sudden to my left, there was a loud pop and a smack of a branch breaking. And then behind me, what sounded like either stomping or one was running towards me. And I turned and I booked it back to my wife. I said, we need to get the hell out of here now. Let's go. And looking back at it now, I think they were toying with me, testing me to see what I would do. But the funny thing was, I had my pistol on my right-hand side. So when I was standing in that trail and I turned to lock eyes with the one, my pistol was facing towards the trail. And I had the one in front of me, I had the one over to my left that I heard, and I had the one behind me that I heard. So that's when I knew that there was something more than them just being an ape, because they know what a firearm is, evidently.
Yes.
And you know, that's when I started digging into it a lot more, you know, because at first, whenever I started doing this, you know, I didn't really buy into, you know, the woo of the Bigfoot. You know, I thought they were an ape, and, you know, and I started looking into it a lot more. And I went into scripture to look for answers, you know, because I'm strong Christian faith, you know, and I will admit that I have come a lot closer to God since I started doing this. So I looked in the Bible for answers. You know, I looked at Cain, you know, because Cain was cursed to be a restless wanderer of the earth after he killed Abel. And I was like, well, that could be something. And then, well, I got to looking, and the descendants of Esau, Esau's descendants were red-headed giants. I was like, well, that could be some of it. And then I got to the Nephilim, and that was the one that just made the most sense to me, you know. And the Nephilim, they were true giants, but I believe over time they have gotten smaller. And I really don't think all of them were wiped out in the flood. I think they had survived in caves and so on and so forth. And I think that a lot of the missing 411, it definitely has to do with either them or the Dogman. And I essentially think that the Dogman are hellhounds. But you know, and that second encounter, that was when I realized there was a lot more to them than just being an ape. And I will say, January 7th, a month of doing Bigfoot research. I had my good friends George Lunsford and Robert Effler with me from North Carolina. We went out and we were hiking along the trail. I was showing them everything, and you know, we were on our way back out. And above where this place is, I researched, there's a cemetery, and above this cemetery is a holler that shoots down in beside this cemetery with a big laurel patch. And I tapped my buddy on the shoulder. I said, George, let's me and you go down here. And I said, Robert can go on down the main trail. He said, all right. And I just had a feeling, you know, that we need to go down that way. So me and George went. George had never seen a Bigfoot. You know, he's seen UFOs and all that stuff. He had never seen a Bigfoot. So we're working our way down in this holler, and you know, we got this big laurel patch on our right-hand side. You know, we can't see, and you know, it's just nothing but green foliage. And we're working our way around, and on this, we get to this part where it dips off and comes back up. So it's virtually just like that. And we're going around, and on this other side, across from us, I seen something moving. I seen something black moving through the laurels, and I just kind of looked, and I was watching it out of my peripheral, and it moved. I seen it move about 4 or 5 feet, and I just stopped dead in my tracks. And George asked me, "Why'd you stop?" I said, "There he is." He said, "Harley, that's a shadow." I said, "George, that's a Bigfoot." He said, "Harley, that's a shadow." I said, "Stand right here." I said, "I'm gonna walk towards it." I didn't walk 10 feet, and I stepped on this branch, and it sounded like a shotgun going off. This Bigfoot reaches its arm up and braces itself on the tree, and he's leaning to look for me because he couldn't see me. I was out of his field of view, and all I heard my buddy George say was, "Oh, shit." And next thing I know, he's running past me, going towards the Bigfoot. And I'm just sitting here like, well, I guess we're chasing this thing. And we get up there to the tree where it was at, and right there in the moss and the dirt, you could see the 3 perfect toes in the middle, and you could see a slight big toe and a slight pinky toe in the direction that he went. And the next thing we know, our buddy Robert was radioing over to us. He said, "What in the world did y'all stir up?" He said, "It sounds like a bulldozer's coming through the woods." We said, "It's a Bigfoot." But the weirdest, this is where it gets into the woo. Now, me and George, we had the experience, the sighting of this Bigfoot. When it took off, we never heard it. We didn't hear the leaves or nothing. But Robert heard him. Robert heard him coming running through the woods. We didn't hear it. Now, whether you want to call this being in a bridge or whatever, you know, it's weird, you know, because how can you be there, have the experience, the encounter, you know, and not hear this thing running away, you know, 8.5 feet tall, you know, it's untelling, 700-800 pounds, you know. You don't hear this thing running, but your buddy radios over to you and says that he heard it.
Sure. Yeah.
That's when it gets into the woo, you know, because I still cannot explain that. You know, I've deer hunted all my life. You know, if a deer runs off, you're going to hear it. You know, they'll make a racket running and leaving through the woods. But something that was right there, 20 yards away from us, you know, 8.5 feet tall. We named that Bigfoot Alfalfa, by the way, because it was raining and sleeting on us, and his hair was sticking up like alfalfa off a little rascal. So we named him Alfalfa.
Perfect name.
And, you know, it's just so weird. You know, you have this experience, an encounter, and you don't hear this thing running away, yet you've seen it, and you find a track, and you don't hear it running away, but your buddy hears it running. And that's when I really started getting into the paranormal side of these beings.
Were you a believer in like ghosts or anything like that before this? To like,
I believed in ghosts. I believed in ghosts. Yeah. There is a place where I grew up called Red Ash. It's an old logging town, and if you're ever interested in reading up on a pretty terrifying place, that's a good one to read up on. Called Red Ash. Apparently, there's goat men up there. There's a lot of satanic stuff that goes on up there, and there's a lot of, you know, there was a school bus that got hit by the train, and apparently you can park your car in neutral on the railroad tracks, and the ghost children will push the car off the track. I had that happen once. I will never forget that. Yeah, me and 4 other people went in the car when we experienced that. And I was like a freshman in high school at that point, I think.
Interesting.
Now, come to find out, I have Rh negative blood. And if you look into the Rh negative blood type, people with this blood type are more prone to have the experiences and encounters with these creatures. Why? I don't know. Could it be some remnant of Nephilim bloodlines or something like that? I don't know. But I do know that there is something about the Rh negative blood type that makes us more susceptible to experiences or encounters. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, only Rh negative people can have this happen, you know, but it just adds more to the amplification of it, I guess you could say. You're more likely to draw them into you.
Right.
And, go ahead, Krista.
Well, the reason I was asking about the paranormal, you know, because you said that's when you kind of tied the paranormal into it. So I didn't know if you were a believer in that beforehand or not.
I mean, I did, you know, and I had the one experience where we were all in the car and it was in neutral and we got pushed off the railroad tracks. And that was pretty spooky. But, you know, and this, well, paranormal, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, you know, but it's almost like, I was on with Tony Merkel and he calls it the bridge, essentially. You know, it's like we're in this reality, but it's almost like they are partially in theirs and they're in this. It's kind of hard to explain, but I don't really know how to explain it. You know, it sounds crazy, but you know, it still just mind boggles me to this day. You know, we seen it, we never heard it run away, but our buddy did, and I mean, to make his first encounter happen, that was truly unbelievable. And then June 23rd, that was when I had my 4th encounter. And I had my buddy Grayson Schuler with me. He had never seen a Bigfoot either. I had went out, he came out with me, and I was going to cast a footprint. And, you know, I got the cast material poured up and ready to go, and I poured it in the track and sat there for about an hour letting it set up. And right as it was getting ready to be done, they started throwing stuff at us. They started throwing acorns and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, calm down. I said, they're wanting us to get out of here. He said, why? I said, we've stumbled too close to something. I said, I don't know. I said, but I'm going to pull this cast up and get out of here. So I pulled the cast up and it shattered into a million pieces. And I was so mad at myself. I said, all right, let's just get out of here. So we're on our way back out and we're crossing the creek. And Lord, he fell in the creek and busted his head open. And I kept checking him. I was like, you okay? You're all right? We need to go to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm okay. He's like, I'm just glad to be out here. And he said, I'm glad you brought me with you. He said, this has been so much fun. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I kept asking him as we're hiking along, you sure you're okay? He's like, yeah. And we get to the spot where me and George had went down to where we had seeing alfalfa. And I'm in front of Grayson, he's behind me, and I'm walking along, and I hear him stop. And I turn around, and I asked him, I said, what is it? He says, you don't see that big head. And I said, where? He said, in the laurels. I said, no. I said, where? He said, right there. And I looked, and I got over to where he was standing, and I looked, and there was a huge head in the laurels peeking up from the top of them. I don't know how, I mean, from that distance, I mean, it looked like it was every bit of that big. It was black hair, had gray skin, and black eyes. And as we were sitting there watching it, it just slowly backed up into the laurels. And it disappeared. And that was, that was crazy. And, I've made two people's first encounters happen, and I can't really, explain it. I really can't, and I encourage anybody to come out with me, and I don't want no money or nothing like that. It's just a fellowship for me. It's the getting to know people, and that's the biggest thing. I want to give people, the satisfaction of going out there and just enjoying the wilderness. And I'm not going to promise that we might not run into a Dogman, but I don't want to say not. But
Well,
you've got feral people.
You've had some experience with Dogman, right? But before we get into that, you did send me some pictures. I'd like to share some of them.
But first, I got something
hey,
else.
man, you go, brother.
So,
yes.
So, this came from October 15th. This was the day that Tennessee played Alabama, and Tennessee showed Alabama how to play football. So I wasn't watching the game though. I knew I figured we were going to get beat, so I didn't watch it. So I went out squatching with my buddies, and we're walking along the creek in my research area, and I find a juvenile track in this soft gravelly spot, and I couldn't really cast it, but it had a real definitive mid-tarsal break. It was like 7 inches long, real tiny track, and I'm like, that's a juvenile track, and I was sitting there mesmerized by it. My buddy Rick hollers at me. He said, Harley, he said, come look at this. So I walked over there, and I was like 10 feet away, and I instantly seen it. I was like, oh my gosh, is that what I think it is? He said, yep. And that was the longest hour of my life waiting for this material to harden to cast this footprint. And he pulled out the knife, and he was working his way around it to pull it up. And I was sitting there biting my nails. I was so nervous because at that point in time, it had been 10 months, and I had failed a couple other times at casting the footprint. And when this footprint came up out of the ground, I couldn't help but cry, because I put in a lot of miles, a lot of dedication, being out here and trying to bring awareness about this phenomenon. And it's just so real for me to have this footprint in my hands right now. Much less leave a legacy behind for my children. Because I want them to know for their future, for when they get older, to let them know that the world is a lot bigger than what it actually is.
Right.
So this track's 16 inches long, 9 inches across at the toes, and it's almost 5 at the heel. So I gotta be easy with it. So
Understand.
Hold. I got the thing in the way.
Wow. Very cool.
I can't really. I got the little thing in the way. I can't really. But
Yeah, well, we get the idea, and I know what you're showing is cast. That is pretty cool.
It is.
And what year was that again? If I forgot.
I casted that this year, October 15th.
Oh, wow.
Oh, very cool. Recently.
Yeah.
That's nice and fresh. That's off the press, as they say.
Yeah. Most definitely. Do you have any experience or encounters with Dogman?
I do. Yeah. I seen the first one January 29th. And that was really an eye opener, for there really being more than just Bigfoot out there. And I'm counting my blessings on that one, and I'll dive into that. So when I went out, I thought I was going to go to the location that I had been going for a little over a month at that point in time. So it happened January 29th, 2024 this year. I think I was going to my normal area, and I didn't go there. So I went further up the mountain, closer to a campground. And I get out and I check out this first area, and I'm looking around and I'm seeing these trees that are broken and snapped off. And there was a tree area that I found in particular where the trees were snapped off about a foot off the ground, and they were laid into an asterisk shape. And I was like, well, I don't see anybody coming out here and breaking these trees and, just doing this for shits and giggles. And it was very cold that evening. It was about 27 degrees. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to keep walking around this area. So I'm walking around some more, and I find these rock stacks. There was 2 rock stacks that I found, and they were about 30 feet away from each other, and they were stacked in threes. These huge rocks, just 1, 2, 3. And then about 20, 30 feet away, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, all right, you know what? There's probably Bigfoot in here, but, I'm just going to go into this next spot. So I go back to the truck and I head further up the mountain to this mountain trail that leads to a waterfall. And I'm going along up through there. I'm zigzagging up through the mountain. And I crossed a couple of wooden bridges that had some creeks going under them. And I zigzag some more. And I come down the hill, and there was a culvert right there that had the creek running through it. And, it had washed away. So you just had to walk across the culvert. So I walked across the culvert, went up the hill, trail wide off. Trail to the right was overgrown with a bunch of brush and stuff because the Park Services didn't maintain it. So I really didn't have much of a choice but to go further up the mountain towards the waterfall. And unfortunately, I did not make it to the waterfall, but maybe in the future I will make it up there. So I'm walking up the trail a little bit further, and I see a game trail that cuts across. And I've walked off to the right, and I'm sitting there looking, and I find 2 twist brakes. Now, for those that don't know what the twist brakes are, those are a brake that the Sasquatch will do. They'll twist a tree and break it. Now, the first one I seen was twisted and broken, and it was facing up the mountain. It was probably 8.5 foot off the ground. I could reach and almost touch it. And the other one was Lord, every bit of 10, 12 foot. I'm not really sure how high it was, but it was twisted and broke facing down the mountain. And I was sitting there looking at all these other trees, trying to explain if this could be wind or not. And I did not come to the conclusion that wind done it. And I was like, something with hands had to do it. There was no other explanation, because why was these 2 trees and no other trees twisted and broken? It was just those 2. And I'm sitting there walking around some more looking, and I see some smaller stick structures that probably I think the smaller ones make the smaller stick structures. And I get back on the trail, and I'm hiking along. I come up to a curve in the trail, but before I get to that curve, I checked my phone battery, and I had 34%. And I didn't have no phone service, so I sent my wife my location over the satellite. And I get up to the curve, and I go around the curve, and I checked my phone again, and it said 10% battery, and it shut off. And at that point, it was getting closer to dark, and I started to have a decision to make. I needed to leave or go a little bit further up the mountain. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to leave. So I turned around, and I come back around the curve, and it wasn't 20, 30 feet after coming around the curve, I heard something behind me to my right moving. And as I'm standing there, I'm hearing it behind me, and I'm okay. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn, and it's going to be there. I told myself that it was a Bigfoot. That's what I told myself. I was like, I'm going to stop, I'm going to turn, and it's going to be a Bigfoot. So I turned, and I locked eyes on it. This huge, dark brown wolf, essentially. It was laying flat on the ground. I didn't know I thought it was literally just a giant brown wolf. His brightest yellow eyes. And it was laying flat on the ground. This thing pushes itself up with its forearms to a bipedal position, and it takes 3 steps, and it places its arm up on a tree, and it's digging its nails into the tree, and it's just sitting there, and huge creature, dark brown, yellow eyes, Its nose was smudged up into the snout. Top of its head in between its ears was flat. It had like a mane running down its neck. It had a big poofy tail like a fox's. Now, most dogmen you hear about, they have backwards facing legs. This thing had
Mhm.
forward facing legs like a human. Now, it's, just looking into this thing's eyes was not very good. I had intent. My life was flashing before my eyes. My wife was going to move on without me. My girls and my sons were going to grow up without me. Just everything was happening. And,
Mhm.
it was very bad. And I was like, you know what? I got to run. So I start backpedaling and I'm locking eyes with this thing. And it's still standing there at the tree. And I turned around and I just booked it. And, it was starting to snow a little at this point. It was getting colder. And I was running down the hill and I crossed the first creek, a culvert, crossing the culvert. And I could hear it running through the brush behind me. And I was running along and I was zigzagging along some more. And I got to the other creek. Now, I'm pretty sure that was when it stopped following me, but I do not know for certain. But I do know that I was booking it. I have never ran that fast in my entire life. And I remember distinctly whenever I got out of the woods and I got home, and I was sitting there in the truck, and I was like, "How am I still alive?" And I remember distinctly before I went out into the woods that I prayed, and I believe that if you pray, you have a circle of protection from the evil of the evil ones of these creatures. Um, Now that happened January 29th. February 2nd, I went back to that location. I had my now friends Rick and Steven with me. Uh, they came down from Virginia, and we went to the exact area where I had this encounter, and we got a size estimate of this thing. And where it had its arm up on the tree, there were scratch marks, and I could base off of that where its head would have been. It was 8 feet tall, not including its ears. It was 46 inches at the shoulders, and from where it was laying to the tree that it was at was 28 feet, and it took that in 3 steps. But here's the kicker: the spot where it was laying at, in the flat on the ground, the compass was going haywire.
Mhm.
So
Interesting.
it is very, very interesting.
Wow.
Well, that was the compass. What was that was going haywire?
The compass.
Yeah, really. It was just the needle was spinning
Yep.
all. It's interesting because, and then that's not electronic, correct? Was that an original?
It was
That was
original
your
compass.
phone.
It was original compass.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because every often we hear stories about like our phones, our
Mhm.
cameras being drained of the battery.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Especially when we're in an area where Bigfoot or these cryptids are. And this is like the second time I've heard somebody with an actual compass,
Mhm.
which is not electronics. But I think it has something to do with
Electromagnetic fields.
electromagnetic fields. Yes, that spin
Mhm.
that too. And you often find this also in the
Quartz
missing.
rocks.
Yes, but you also find the missing. The 411
Oh yes, yes.
Mhm.
airplanes or the Bermuda Triangle, the Michigan Triangle, where all of a sudden they go through this magnetic field, and it doesn't have to be electronic. It can be man-made since the compass was invented, I think in what 1938
Mhm.
or whatever it was. I
I,
don't back way back before we were all born,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, do you think maybe there was a portal or something there, maybe, or?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't get sick or
Mhm.
anything. It felt like there was something there to explain it. I don't know, but it definitely makes more questions than answers. Why would a compass be going haywire where this thing was laying at?
Right.
Whether a
Right.
portal opened up and it popped through. I don't know. Who
You
knows?
know, that is so frightening because I just remember
Okay.
that's frightening because let me ask you, did you experience any missed time? And I only asked that for one reason. Several years ago, I was out boating on the Detroit River in Lake Erie, and my friends and I, we got kind of lost. and we felt we lost time very surely, but we were awake.
Hmm.
Nothing to do with cryptids, nothing to do with anything. We're just coming home from an island in Ohio. And one of the first things we noticed is with the compass went haywire, and we had these digital maps, and
Mhm.
the maps showed us that we were in Canada.
Holy cow!
But we were in the state of we were in Michigan waters, Ohio waters, and
Uh,
Michigan waters. But yet it showed we were somewhere in BFE, Canada, some 300 miles north of our location.
that
Wow.
is insane.
You know, and every time people mention these things, I always think about portals. I think
Yeah,
about
Mhm.
alien intervention. We've heard about alien abduction where they lose time.
yeah,
Their clocks are backward, they're forward, depending on the
Mhm.
encounter.
yeah.
And I'm just wondering if for all of us folks out in the field or whatever, I was simply on a boat, if you go through some sort of time glitch
Well, hey, maybe.
and you're
Right.
transferred into a different part of time, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
You know, Krista?
nobody is an expert in this. You know, nobody has the answers to all the questions. You know, and the people that say they're experts, they're wrong. Uh,
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
and
we all agree with that. Yep.
we
Mhm.
we can only scratch the tip of the iceberg with what we want to achieve and know.
Right.
Um, Now, the second Dogman encounter, that was the one that was most terrifying. We did not see it, but I got a picture of it.
Wow.
It was me and my stepdaughter's dad.
Hey,
We
hey, Harley, really briefly though, you have sent me some pictures. Did you want me to share some of
yeah yeah
those? I
yeah
don't.
yeah yeah yeah.
I
My
want
bad,
you to
my
do
bad.
what you want. No, no. Hey, it's your show, man. I just sit back. Chris and I navigate.
Mhm.
Like I navigated the
We can
vessel where
talk. We
I.
can talk about the pictures.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mentioned the Bigfoot picture. Is that the one you're talking about? I can at least show
Oh, the
that.
Dogman, the
The
Dogman.
dog
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Is
We'll
that
talk.
part of this
Yeah, show
story?
the picture. Yeah, show the
Is that
picture.
the
Then we,
okay? Because I marked that one because I want people to see this,
yeah,
and
I
then
can
I'll
get the
show this
context.
while you tell the story. Okay?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. That's a good
Because
idea. Get some
I'd like to
context.
show a couple of your pictures
Mhm.
because you did take the time. But I will show the. This is the Dogman one. Oh boy. Just give me a couple seconds. Do. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, there it is. So, April 28th, it was myself and my stepdaughter's dad. We had went out and went turkey hunting out in this wildlife management area called Forks of the River. And we got out there a little bit before daylight. It's like 5 o'clock. And
Hey Harley, really briefly for the people, I know you got that circle, but for people that maybe can't see that, as soon as I see this, I thought you didn't tell me what it was. I saw a dog man because for those that maybe are on your phone and not on the computer or the TV,
Mhm.
there are two high. I don't know if you guys can see my hand on this. There's two
Mhm.
distinct ears high,
Yep,
and I can see a snout with two eyes, and I can see the shape of
Mhm.
a dog
yep.
and the shoulders.
That's
So just
exactly
for
right.
people on your phone, you probably can't see it as well. So
Yeah,
this is the dog man, and this is the story that you're about to tell us.
yes, exactly right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so it was April 28th of this year, and we went out turkey hunting. Me and my stepdaughter's dad, Hunter. We got out there 5 o'clock, right before the sun was coming up, and we gonna try and kill a turkey because that was the first time I had been turkey hunting since the spring of 2019. Spring of 2020. It wasn't 2019. Spring of 2020. Um, so we're going out through the trail, and the sun started to come up a little bit more, and we hit the owl call, and we heard some turkeys gobble off further in the distance. And I was like, okay, you know what? I gotta look this up on map. And I was like, I don't know where these birds are going to be at because I've never hunted this place before. So we found some big fields along the back of this wildlife management area, and I'm like, that's where we need to go. So we hiked along for 20 minutes at least, and we're going through some swamps, and we finally find these fields. And we checked all three of the fields, no turkeys anywhere. They shut up as soon as after the sun came up. Never heard them again. And I was sitting there, and I told Hunter, I said, you know what? Let's just go. I said, this was a waste of time. He said, all right. So we're working our way back out, and I remember distinctly we went in the woods right behind this shed where they keep their equipment and stuff, like the tractors and stuff, to keep the fields mowed down. And it wasn't even 10, 15 feet after stepping into the woods, I could hear something moving behind us. And I wasn't going to say anything until he had heard it. So we're working our way up this creek bed, and you know, the banks on both sides of us. We're working our way up the creek bed. I could still hear it moving behind us, following us. And I wasn't going to say anything to him until he heard it. And we're working our way up. And in the picture, you can see that there is a tree that was fallen over. And we had to pull ourselves up out of the creek bed by that tree. Yes, in the bottom right-hand corner. We had to pull ourselves up out of the creek bed by that tree.
Hey, hang on 1 second. I just noticed something. There's a dog man right. You did not circle to the left of it. You see that right in the middle? You see, okay, you got your Harley, your 2 emblems, and then right in the middle, there's a dog man sitting right there. Right there.
That's the same one.
Okay, guys. Oh, so you did okay.
Yeah,
really
that's
good.
just enhanced. That's enhanced.
Okay,
Right,
no, man,
Mhm.
that without the circle is more defined. If everyone's looking at her right in the middle, everybody, off to the left of the circle with the pink arrows, right there, buddy. That
Yep,
is
that's it. Yeah, that's
more.
it.
That is like boom. That is spot on, man. Good
Yep.
catch.
Yep.
Great
So
catch.
that the tree in the
And I'm not
bottom.
big on photos, I must say. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, for that tree that's in the bottom right-hand corner right there. So I'm 6'6", and I had to pull myself up out of that creek bed by that tree, and he had to pull himself up too. So to give a little context, we pull ourselves up out of the creek bed, and we walked a little bit further, and he says, "I hear something behind us," and I said, "Yeah, it's been following us for about 20 minutes now." And at 9:36, I took a picture to my right, I took a picture straight behind us, and I took a picture to the left. And I said, all right, let's go. He said, what was it? I said, it's probably Bigfoot. He said, seriously? I said, yeah. I said, it was bipedal footsteps, wasn't it? He said, yeah. I said, okay. I said, let's go. So we got back to the vehicle and we left. He dropped me off at home. I looked through the first picture, nothing. And as soon as I looked in that second picture, I seen it instantly. So that thing is standing in the creek bed that we pulled ourselves up out of. Just to give a little more context on that.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
that's a big, big animal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that photo, man. I'll be honest with you. Because
It
I will
looks
say
pit
this.
bull. It looks like a pit bull. It looks like a giant pit bull.
It looks like a
Yeah.
dog of some sort, but it's nothing that I want as a pet.
Yeah, yeah, there.
You know?
That is probably one of my favorite images that I have so far.
Very cool.
I mean, I will say this, and I freely admit this, not because you're on the show. I'm not big on pictures,
Mm-mm.
and I immediately was like, "Whoa, I got to show that one tonight." But your other ones, I'm gonna show a couple other ones too, though,
Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
want you to, because you sent me a few cool ones. I got. Well, here's some. Well, here we go. Here's something.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a
toe. That's 3-toed, ain't it? It
yep,
looks like that's.
three-toed footprint. Yep, that's I have
Wow.
no idea. I
Yeah,
don't think there's no velociraptors or nothing running around out there, but that's the only thing I can think of with 3 toes is a dang on dinosaur.
Huh. Wow.
And here's something a little more. You got a break in the woods there,
Yep,
possible,
I
something.
actually found that Friday, last Friday. I was
Oh,
out.
that's okay.
I was out in a spot called Werewolf Springs.
Now you guys have had no snow yet, right? So that's something is that. Did you notice if that break was fresh at the top?
Yeah, that was a fresh break. Yeah, I had found that this last Friday after Thanksgiving. So
All right.
pretty
I
fresh.
like that. No, I like that, man. And we got this. It's kind of hard to see what this
Yep,
is. Well,
that's it. That's the same picture. That's
that's
the
the
original.
dog man again. See, man, I do dig that picture. I like that. I really do. Here's another. You're showing some.
That's a footprint. You can
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to tell in the leaves,
Yeah.
but where it stepped, it kicked the leaves up. It's 26 inches long.
Wow.
Yeah, here's
That's my
well,
machete next to it.
yeah.
Wow.
So and I can see toes on the right side here, pretty good. Well,
That's
now that's the cast that you couldn't quite show.
yeah.
That's the same cast from.
Yep.
Man, that's massive. What would you say? It was 16 inches long.
Yep. 16 inches long.
Wow, I like that, man. And we got another little print here.
Yep.
Well,
I found that one Friday too. That one was 18.
Wow.
so where you found these at? Venice number 7. Okay, so this is all in Tennessee area,
Yep.
not
Wow.
far from where you live, I assume.
Nope. Not very. It's 20 minutes.
Man,
Close.
Yep.
pretty close.
Have you ever had anything follow you home or anything?
Yeah. Yeah. They did. I now keep the back porch light on. They would take my spare tire off of the trash can and put it on the back porch. And when I would open the door, it would catch on the spare tire. So I would have to move my spare tire back, put it back on the trash can. And after I would grill, I would close my grill and I'd come back outside and my grill would be open.
Yeah.
I'd have to close it back again. So now I just keep the back porch light on. And actually, just a few nights ago, we had one smack the side of the shed behind the house because my wife heard it and she shot up out of sleep. She said, "What was that?" She said, "Was that a raccoon?" I said, "No, that wasn't a raccoon.
Wow.
It was a real loud smack on the side of our shed behind the house."
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be scary.
Yeah, she shot up out of bed real quick. She it was
I bet
just so
she did.
odd. She just said, "Was that a raccoon?" Of all things, a raccoon.
Yeah. Well,
Probably not a raccoon.
raccoons have those creepy hands. And
Oh,
I'm gonna
that's
leave it
the
at that.
Dogman have the creepy hands.
Yeah, I've heard people say similar to the raccoon with the
Mhm.
dog man, but much bigger. You know?
Yeah, a lot bigger.
We got some here's is that the same picture? That's a different
Yes,
one by the lake.
that's the same one.
Wow.
Yeah, but blown up a little bit. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
I can never tell with these. I didn't I certainly something happened with this, right?
Mhm.
And in the area you're at, I'm more in where you with what you provided us, I'm more apt to think that it might be a Bigfoot and this is
Yeah,
just
that one that's another twist break. It's in the middle of the picture. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know why
yeah.
I didn't zoom in on that one,
Yeah,
but I
you're all
did.
right, man. I mean, I'm just randomly showing these, and this is I don't know what this is.
That's the same.
Oh wait,
That's
there's
the
the dog
Dogman.
man again.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh Pete's. I spotted it right away. It's a little picture.
Look
Yeah.
I
at
gotta
you.
tell you, hey man, I'm gonna give you props, brother. I spot it every time. And if
You
people
doing
can't,
good.
if you guys are on the phone, you can't see this. Go watch the replay and put it on your TV or something. Because
Or you can watch it on my YouTube channel.
well, we're gonna go. What is your YouTube channel? I didn't know you had one, man.
Yeah, Bigfoot reports and data on YouTube.
Oh, I thought that was your Facebook group,
It
dude.
is my Facebook group too.
Okay.
It's all under the same name. All my social media
Well,
platforms are
well,
the same.
here I am, the host with the most. I thought you just had Facebook, man. I'm gonna subscribe after the show. I'm gonna pop the link in this video, brother. My bad. It's my fault, man. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
you're good,
subscribed to
BMR.
him. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
You're good, BMR. It's
I'm
all good,
sorry,
bro.
brother.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I like
that is the track that I casted.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see craziness going on there at the top with the toes. It's kind of
Yep.
that's kind of deep. Like I can look at this and say,
Mhm.
hey, it's step forward. You can see
Hey,
boom.
and it's on an incline too. There's a little bit of an incline right there, and there on the track you can see the on the cast you can see the mid tarsal break.
Yeah,
Before
I
it
like that.
arched. Yep.
Let's see here. This is a
Yeah,
smaller one.
that's a smaller one that I had just recently found. It was like 13 and a half.
Wow.
And the last one you sent me, but then again, Harley, it don't matter. Big, smaller, in between. That's something going on. This side is kind of little. I don't know if we can.
Yeah.
That's I don't know.
So claw marks. Now,
Okay, there you go.
from the top claw mark to the bottom claw mark, the gap is 18 inches. So something with a very, very large hand with claws scratched that tree up.
You think that might be a bear or no? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing stuff out.
I've never seen anything like that, and I don't think black bears get that big.
No, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just
Yeah, I mean,
talking.
could it be the granddaddy of all black bears? Yeah, absolutely, but I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't think no. You say black bear, maybe a brown. You don't have no brown bears where you live, though.
Just black bears.
Yeah, and no grizzlies.
No.
I'm sorry, Maggie. BMR, this is breaking my brain. I don't like it. That she's laughing and crying all at the same time. Maggie, you know what you get on the BMR show. You know
A
what you
good
get.
time.
You know,
That's right. A good time.
good times, great show, great guests.
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess if we summate your location where you're at, you got Bigfoot and Dogman in the same area. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard anything at night, late at night? You're sitting out camping or walking a trail. Because I've had mixed reports, right?
Uh-huh.
Bigfoot, Dogman don't get along. They fight, they battle. Then I
Well,
hear that they both kind of just leave each other alone because they're both, predators, so to
well,
speak, and they don't want to tangle with each other.
I think
What's your experiences?
I think that they have a understanding of each other. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the territorial limits. You know, hey, this is our land and that's yours. You know, don't come over here. Or it could be completely opposite. I've been thinking, what if these Bigfoot are using these dogmen,
Mm-hmm.
to hunt prey? What if these Bigfoot set up in these hunting blinds that they make, out of all these broken trees and stuff? Then dogman flush the prey to them, and
Sure.
Bigfoot gets first picks of the meal, and then dogmen get the scraps. Pretty much like how we do our dogs.
Right.
They never know. I mean, but why would two apex predators benefit from just fighting it out all the time when they could have a mutual understanding? Because these beings, let's just face it, they're a lot more intelligent than what we are.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
They've remained hidden for centuries, and they still are able to do so. But it just brings up the $1 million question, of why are they? I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Why are they remaining so elusive? Is something coming that we don't know that they know? I mean,
Well, that is $1 million question. And you just, how long have you been doing this, really researching? I mean,
December 7th,
of
this coming up,
23?
yeah,
Mm.
I'll
Just a
be
year.
a year, just 4 days. It'll be my
So
4-year anniversary.
I'll ask you, and I guarantee you this: if I have you on the show in 3 years, the question I ask you today. So write this down.
Hang on,
It's
hang on,
December 3rd, 2024,
hang on. Let me get my notebook. I'm gonna
and
write this down.
I'm not being funny when I ask you this
Hang
because I
on.
know exactly, and I'm going to record. This is being recorded, as you know.
All right, ask you a question.
So the question is this: December 3rd, 2024.
24.
Yeah, boy, I forgot it's not 25 yet.
Not yet.
So, what do you think Bigfoot and Dogman is? And now, before you answer, I'll have you back in 1 year. Well, I'll have you back maybe in less than a year, but let's say in December of 2025. I will guarantee you and mark my words that the statement you give me today is going to change. I'm just saying, I'll bet to, a beer or something on it. So I want to hear today what you think they are.
I think that Bigfoot are uh, descendants of the Nephilim. And if you want to look this term up, it is the Eliud, Eliud. Look up that term. I think
Okay.
you'll find that
Chris
pretty
is writing it down. She's
Wrote
also
it
my
down.
administrative
interesting.
assistant.
And I think that the dogmen are hellhounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll write that down. I think that I don't know about the Nephilim, but I'm not saying you're wrong either. I just think I don't know that they survived the flood and all that. We can get all biblical, but that'll be time for another show as we're getting close to the end here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Nephilim bloodline has been diluted throughout the centuries. There are people, human beings, by the way, that have Nephilim DNA, There are. Yes, there are.
I have RH negative blood.
Yeah, but I'm talking from traced back to the times of Noah.
Oh, yeah.
But
You're
it's
talking
such a
about
fragment. It takes such a concentrated effort to pull that, but it's so dilute, but it doesn't affect the person. I
right,
mean, it doesn't make them a Nephilim, right?
right, yeah,
Just like, we all have descendants from wherever, right?
yeah,
We don't know. I'm German, Polish, and Ukrainian. I'm probably 15 other things, just like Krista is. Harley, you are, and everyone
yeah,
chat. We get, we know what our moms and dads are.
yeah,
We know what grandma and grandpa are,
yeah,
and maybe their grandma and grandpas, but we don't know when it all started 100
yeah.
years ago. So we just don't know, right?
Exactly.
I think this was an awesome show, Harley,
Oh, I
and
had a blast. It was so
For
great
sure.
to be back
and,
on here
and
tonight.
and really quickly, man, DJ Tyler Radio, thanks for the super sticker. JoJo super sticker. Gary Spike Sr., 5 more pirates. Sinfully Wicked super sticker. Maggie super sticker. Keith from Michigan. Keith by Michigan, by the way, was the second person to buy tickets for our event.
Mhm.
I know the first one was Mickey, and they did
Mhm.
that December 1st. Walter, man, thank you for the super sticker as well. That is awesome. That is totally awesome. And I'm gonna cut you loose, Harley, in a moment. Then me and Chris are just gonna promote our show a little bit. So
All right.
again, tell everybody where we can find you, and I'm gonna try and give me the link. Chris has got the link. I'm gonna and Paul does. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put it in this show because I just thought you were on Facebook, man. I'm sorry about
No,
that.
no, I got off. I tagged you on Instagram earlier. You must not have seen it.
Yeah, I probably how many times his phone's gone up during this show.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. So you can find me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Bigfoot reports and data. You can see it right here on my under my name. So jot that in on all social media, and you should be able to find me.
Well, what I do love about you, Harley, young guy. You're just doing this, from the seat of your pants. Of course, the reason we all know the reason being, as you told us some awesome stories. I wish you the best of luck, and I think that
For
we need more
sure.
people your age. You're in your 20s, man. I'm guessing
Yeah, I'm 24.
running around doing this. I like your enthusiasm, and I can see why you have such a big following on Facebook.
For
And yeah, I
sure.
wish you the best, man. And I want to thank you, man. I'm going to have you back on probably. Well, for sure. Mark my words. In a year, you're going to change that definition. I guarantee
Another.
it.
I thought it was
I
3 years.
guarantee.
Yeah, you said 3 years,
I
Rob.
did say 3, but
Yeah. See. Oh.
I'm
It's
going to
going
give.
to
I gotta
be
say
year to
though. I gotta
year.
say though. Go Wolverine.
Well, send me a text in a year when you change your tune. I'll have you on it before 3 years, so Harley. We're not going to
Yeah.
wait
Yeah.
3 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I will say though. Go Wolverines.
Thank you for that. But go Lions. Go Lions Thursday.
Hey,
I got to say,
you better be cheering Tennessee on.
wow, your team sucks, dude. I mean, you have
No,
no.
we're playing Ohio State. You got yours on.
Oh, I'll share our Tennessee College. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Go
exactly. Yeah,
Volunteers, buddy. Go
yeah,
Volunteers.
exactly right.
I don't like that team across the border. I wouldn't even call them out by the state name.
Yeah. Did you
Get any
Sorry for you Ohioans out there. I love you all if you're a subscriber.
Yeah, go balls.
Go Vols. Harley, thank you so much. I'll get back with you a little later. Great show, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Krista. Nice
See
seeing
ya.
you again.
You're
Good to
welcome.
see you again.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
See y'all.
So, Chris, that was a great show. Thanks for everybody for coming on in. And since we still have like 85 plus in the chat, one more time, if you didn't see it earlier, we got a little thing to talk about briefly before we cut you all loose. And it is our event. It's going to be phenomenal. It's already tickets are it's going out. The tickets are
They
selling
really are.
hotcakes.
They
Here
really
it is.
are.
The Crossing Realms Conference, UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptid, September 19th and 20th in Richmond, Missouri. And Krista, I'll let you, handle the rest of the spiel. Then we'll call it a night.
So if anybody's interested too, we are also doing vendors. So if anybody wants to come and be a vendor, vendor spots are cheap. They're only $75. So that's also you can get tickets for or get a spot for that on Eventbrite. But we have a great lineup between Greg Ogles, Haunted Souls, Ron Murphy, Ann Celine, Dr. Dean Bertram, William Lunsford, Heather Mosier, Josh Hurd, Chris Jordan is our tech guy, Tex Wesson is our MC. Special guests as of now include Ken Gerhard, Dana Stricker, and Brent Thomas. So,
and of course, we will all be there. Myself, you, and Brandy, of course, Tex, Donnie, Paranormal Paul, of course, Greg Ogles.
everybody will be there.
Everybody that you guys are all pretty much subscribed to. And if you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mystery Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, Texas Front Porch, Donnie Cho Says Stuff. And am I missing one other?
Greg just asked, is Ken bringing his hat? You know, I've never seen him without his hat.
I've never seen him without that. So. It's that same hat, too, from like 1976.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah. I've met him twice in my life. It's always the same hat. Yeah. Kind of like Blackburn, too. Same
He's
hat.
a nice guy, yeah. So, both and Lyle's a nice guy, too. Yeah, I like Lyle, too.
Both great guys. Yeah, Lyle's cool. Ken's cool. Greg Ogles is moist.
Yeah, and Greg Ogles will be there.
Yes, he will. November 4th, premiering, if you're in Alabama, AMC
January 4th.
Did I say November 4th? I meant January 4th.
Sorry, we're not waiting another year.
You know?
January 4th.
Brad from the Paranormal Portal will be there, too, now. Yes.
Yep.
Did you say that?
I did.
I just seen somebody in chat said that.
Yeah, Maggie said that.
Yeah. I got this sickness coming on, Krista.
Yes.
My eyes are burning. My throat is on fire.
You're going to feel like crap tomorrow. I'm sorry.
I feel like crap. I'm glad I'm not doing my mom. I got to take care of mama.
You need to stock up on a bunch of vitamins and stuff too.
I take vitamins every day. Well, I take the old man pills now. I take the Centrum for dudes that are 50 now.
There you go. Take extra though.
Man, I don't know.
Take some extra vitamin C and D and all that good stuff.
And of course, one last time, I got to thank the folks that. Well, first of all, thanks for if you're not in the chat room. Thank to everybody that's watching. That you're not in chat because you drive the shows as much as the chat room. Love you guys. Please hit the like button on your way out. It helps promote the show. Gary Spike Sr., Simply Wicked, Maggie, Keith, Walter, and who else? JoJo, DJ Tyler Radio. Thanks for your contributions. Not expected. Always appreciated. And tonight is Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, blah, blah, blah. Wednesday. Blaza Booze on Wednesday with Brandy, Donnie Cho, and Randy.
Yep.
And then I'm on Thursday afternoon with Tex. Maybe Brent. Brent might join us again. I don't know. I don't have a guess. And then you guys are on Thursday. What you got going on Thursday?
Thursday, we have Ron Murphy.
Very nice, Ron Murphy. He will be a speaker as well at the event. So
yep.
That'll be great. And I'll cut it back because you'll be back on Friday with whatever you got going on Friday.
Well, honestly, I was going to hit you up Friday to see if you could co-host. Nothing like doing it on public air.
Wow,
Brady's got to pick her daughter up, so she's not available on Friday.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm working Friday.
Not like putting you on the spot right here in front of everybody.
Yeah, well, BMR will be on the Blondes Friday talking about the nonsense.
That's it.
We have no guests.
No, I never have a guest on Friday anymore. It's just been,
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
we'll pick a subject to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about something.
Yeah,
we always come up with something. In fact, you guys, I'm a little disappointed. I love all you guys. I put out a cool video, you guys. It's about a shapeshifter. It's a story about the relationship between a shapeshifter and his friend. They grew up together. They got exiled from each other because of their different ways, and they reconvened. And this guy shifted in front of his friend, and he protects him in the forest out in Georgia. Check it out. Only 200 views. Come on. It's terrible.
Interesting.
Yeah, Krista probably even check it. Oh, Krista always watches my stuff.
I always watch your videos.
Sounds like you didn't watch that one. You said interesting.
I did not. I have not had a chance to. I
And
will
also,
though. I always do. I always.
and BMR is putting new video background. So when I tell the story, you got the forest,
Mhm.
you got the big feets.
Yep.
Amy, the big feets from her.
Big
Said big
things.
feet. You got the Dogman, you got the wolves. So I'm putting, when I tell the stories now, everybody, instead of seeing my face and just my face, I'm providing video background of the forest and everything else as the story unfolds. So go check them all out. Yeah, I'm working on that to help provide better content or better visuals. As much as people love looking at me, I need something else to provide the background.
It's some background stuff.
Yeah, there we go. And that's about all I can say. I gotta find
Yeah.
this damn get out of here button. I gotta stroll through. So I know where it is. It's not that I'm text. I got someone's stuff to stroll through. There we go. Krista, thank you. Thanks to everyone for coming on in. Like, share on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. BMR. Krista, we're out.
See y'all.